Joseph Scaliger, son of Julius Caesar Scaliger, An Improvement to the Times, Book 1. Introduction. If true, and you ask the Stoic school, the times being the normal state of affairs, because the custodians catalogue the truth to further examine the past recorded events, the duration of its defending just posterity, and uncommon praise for those worthy, who drew up the accounts of the times when drawing back the fugitives of antiquity, where in the past with such ancient writers quite equal to the enthusiastic brilliant work of our time, they lament festivals that require the ancients themselves to gather and study, or in less respect to the monuments and abandoned authors who have arrived and we've received. But now, the extent of all the ancient Greek writings were light on the details of the intervening times we embrace. Indeed, Greece, before the first of her Olympiads, is not clearly explored, and unfortunately what was written about them, which chronologists consider, leave us nothing but our desire. For from the extensive Eusebius, although we have the Greek monuments, many distinguished and worthy things are denied to us. There are many corrections being discovered by their trials. Because if Thales, Castor, Phlegon, or Astraciad, or more prominent or insignificant than the canons, is there not reason for anybody to have some of these books? For today the scarcity makes these things a great prize. Among the Roman, however, I unfortunately yield to the writings, which may be embracing a feral understanding. Before the consulship of Brutus, nothing is certain among the fabulous stories. If we look at the matter more closely, not even the consulship of Brutus. This refugee of the times is enough for his explorations, even though he had betrayed Censorius. Varro collates the different civil times and retells the intervals, shedding light on the truth and discovering reliable ways to construct the number of years since the founding of the city. But, as will be discussed in its proper place, it was less clear the number of years between the founding of the city and the Greeks' fall of Troy. In fact, the end is a true demonstration which forces us to be less than persuaded. The sun in sacred books survives, and from these sources contain times that can be recognized and drawn out. But knowledge of these times is worthless if a specific historical epoch cannot be ascertained. So antecedents and consequences can be inferred. For as I have clearly said among the old Christian writer Tatian, the notion of the times was not attached to either the truth or a faithful historical account, nor can it be seen. That if another most expert sacred history, in which the intervals of things is very nobly carried with certain reasoning of Moses, and by exploring the rest of what the Holy Bible contains, yet nothing from these can be used to ascertain the historical epoch of Greece or Rome. Who in the world can help with such diligent support for themselves or students of antiquity? But now the culmination of all the understanding can be used by some insightful people, out of which the central literature is done away with. They are thankless of all my labor and work, and any time to my devotions to the studies. Such is Jewish science, whose reasonings with the sacred times are gathered, studied, and a diligent consensus reached, whose proximity with the truth is said to be absent. But while there is a stray depravity in their knowledge of external matters, or it is completely missing, there are multiple errors, because without history, an assault can be made on the sacred. The right of heroic virtue in chronology is negligent and contemptuously better left dead and buried. They attempt to pull it out every day from the darkness and silence of oblivion. Always less certain are the judgments, to have them recovered with great acclaim from antiquity. Surely not all is pristine in the integrity of the rational times after reconstruction, but is far more effective. In many ways, however, the judgment, likewise diligent, I do not ask which of their achievements were true. All of their arguments have been treated as many of these things, divided between many thousands of chronologies. Hardly two of them recovered are the same. How much content still exists in the weeks of Daniel, from the beginning, the middle, and the end of the fight? However, clearly nothing that they want have they attained. From this uncertain and therefore unwise reading, it continues from indeed long ago. Who at any time has their beginnings in the epoch of the Hebrew Exodus? How they are now shamed by the odor of having their years begin with the birth of Christ? Behold the worn, exposed, common, good-looking, ignorant, remote, and concealed proof as promised. Which of them undertook the interpretations of the Hebdomadas of Daniel? Do those who are ignorant of its hiding place ask? And the kings of Persia, who never existed in their natural world, are they not fictitious? But if you take Daniel and most carefully read it, looking at the matters, it explains not the other deeds of the kings of Persia, of which there was, who Herodotus, Diodorus, and all ancient Greece knew, but the lack of progress from ἀμηχανία, Berosus, Megasthene, and I know not whom consulted Cantanus and Philonis, which before this manufactured 100 years, I do not know which untrained or an impudent man brings it forth. For he should be critical of himself when professing his designated times, which that kind is so easy, such a foolish man has no job placing his scribbles in the spotlight. Those ignorant men, if nothing else, certainly argue that it might. Ordained himself Metasthenes instead of Megasthenes. If the Greek Josephus or Strabo or the Athenian reads, this Megasthenes voiced his understanding, who they called Megasthenes. Without intimate knowledge of Greek, with Megasthenes never being found in their language, or if this composition didn't likewise mention, we may not have understood. In this case, Justus recovers her senses, that the new kings of Persia are announced, Asurius Priscos, Asurius Longimanus, Asurius Pius, two Cyruses. I don't know what other dreams Annius Viterbiensis had in the midst of his production. If the first single word indicates the source of their error, then the medicine for this disease is its proof. So therefore, in investigation of the truth, his reasons withdraw. The two eminent reasons are discovered, that in ancient civil times, general ignorance of the form of the year and month and status. The other is its character and the notation of the year, which pleasantly proclaimed is not adopted. From both, confusion arises around the times, but of a different class. The former cause is ignorance of the years, months, and days of many noble epochs. For his understanding pertaining to the civil times was pedestrian. The second reason is the festival of Pallia in the city of Rome, now in its 3rd year of the Olympiad, now for the 4th time. Likewise, now the consulship of Brutus is connected through the years of the Olympiads, and therefore a new reason for an amendment to the time begins. Two important discussions will be had. The first of all is the national civil times, which was very difficult to follow, except prior times had their own principles, that is, of years, periods, months, and in their last term, days, hours, and minute resolutions. But now, before we attack this province, if only these and not attack the others, let us discuss the laws of time and its nature. However, this discussion is better interpreted, physikīs ἀκροάσεως, pleasing vindication. Nor indeed should it be done. Let the definition of past times follow peripapatis, or be according to the Stoics or the academics. These definitions have loitered for a long time. This knowledge of written chronology has a definite limit. Those indeed are satisfying words, but there is nothing defined. Nothing might be, however, ἀμεθοδεύτως efforts. I have determined singularly that even the smallest parts of time before someone dare notice, rather describe ἱστορικήν civil times and their methods of approach.